Okay, so thank everyone for joining us today. We are here with Miss Susan Wright, who is running for Congress, and we're going to have just a short little conversation. So, Miss Susan, I am going to let you start with, let's kind of just give an overview. So, where were you born? Where were you raised? And then we'll get to the political stuff. So, tell us what you want us to know.
Well, hello, Lori. Thank you for doing this. I was born in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, a very long time ago. And it's a small town just south of Little Rock, which is the capital, almost exactly in the center on the Arkansas River. Went to school in Fayetteville when I got out of high school at the University of Arkansas. I'm a Razorback. And shortly after that, I moved to Texas. So I moved down here in '87, and this has been home ever since. And let's see, what else would you like to know about me? Where do you want me to go from there? Favorite color, how many dogs, all of those things.
No.
So we've got 9 grandkids.
There you go.
3 grown children. They're all in this general area within 15 to 20 minutes of our house. The dogs are in charge, of course, of the house, and they let us live here, and they've got my mom and I trained really well. What else? All the personal pieces.
Well,
you tell me where you want me to go next.
Well, okay. So we'll shift gears quickly here because I really do want to get into some meat and potatoes with you.
Yeah.
So tell me about your interest, first of all, I guess, in politics.
So as a kid, a small town, we grew up active in the community. Everybody pitched in, everybody did everything together. You know, you knew everybody there had grown up together. Our parents grew up together. So you grow up in a community atmosphere. Mm-hmm. When I moved to Texas, that didn't change. You get involved in your community, and like so many people, something was being there was a proposal for development in our neighborhood that a lot of us didn't want. We didn't have a formal neighborhood association at the time. So from this issue a neighborhood was born. A neighborhood association was born, and I was the first president of that one, Summerfield's Neighborhood Association. But I was active because whatever happened in the neighborhood affected all of us, and we all talked about it. We all said, "What are we going to do? Let's go talk to our officials. Let's go do these things." And I enjoy those kinds of conversations. As you know, I've had a number of them with you. I like talking with people about what's going on around us and hearing what the ideas are that other people have, hearing what the concerns are. And then together we figure out how to address them, and then we'll go and address it. You know, do you go to the city? Do you go somewhere? What do you do to address this challenge or this concern that you have, or a need that you have? Where do you go to get your need? And I'm always excited. It's never failed yet. Whatever the need is or whatever the challenge is, the people affected, the people in our neighborhood, the people in our city and our county and in the state, we can address those needs. We always have, and we always do it well, because the people who have the most at stake are at the table. And so those are the most successful resolutions that I've ever been a part of, and I've never seen it fail. So I've enjoyed doing that, and it has progressed. I've had some degrees of success in different places, and so I've served on city boards and commissions for both Fort Worth and Arlington. I've served with some nonprofit agencies. Years and years ago, I was with United Way for a little while on a families allocations panel. I chaired that for a little while. My heart is with the community. That's where we live. That's where we work. That's where we play, and that's where I'll be the rest of my days, I guess. So it's important to me to get that right and have as many people in the process as possible. So politics is just a natural extension of the community involvement piece.
Okay, so you are running for Congress, and I want to know what prompted you to do that. And I understand there's like 23 running in for your seat. So talk to me a little bit about that. How did you decide to do this? Why are you doing it? And then just kind of how's it been up to this point?
Well, so there are 23 of us. There's 11 Republicans, 10 Democrats, an independent, and a libertarian. And this was never something I planned to do. This was never a goal of mine to be in Congress. It was not my plan to be an elected official. But when Ron passed away, so many people came to me and said, we really want your voice in this. We really want you to do this. And I really wasn't sure I would be ready for that so soon after losing him. But a number of people that I really thought and respected a lot, I really thought would run, said, no, we think you should do this. We really do. We think it's time for you to step up. We know it's hard. We respect that, but we really think you should be the one to do this. I took about a week after the funeral. I looked at it. I looked at the numbers. I looked at the timeline. Ron and I were a team. So everything he ran for, I ran with him. I know how to run this race. We've done it twice now, and it's a lot of work. And this time it's a compressed time frame. We didn't even know when I first talked about doing it, I didn't even know when the election would be, but we knew it would be a different type of election as a special election. So in the end, I decided to do it because so many people throughout the district and the state encouraged me to do it. And I really, really wanted to continue Ron's legacy. Ron was a community-based, grassroots-based member. He spent as much time as, I don't know of any member who spent more time in their district than Ron did, but he spent as much time as he possibly could in the district. He was on conference calls. He once Zoom became our way of life, he used to say he Zoomed all over. But it was important to him to hear from the business community, small, medium, large size businesses, hear from the schools, hear from the colleges, hear from the different service organizations, the nonprofits, all of the different groups, the community groups, the political groups. He wanted to hear from everybody. What are your issues? What are your concerns? What do you think is going on? How do you think we should do it? What do you think we should be doing or not? What do you think we're doing too much of that we shouldn't? Of course, people always are happy to tell you what they think when you ask them. And they were very happy to tell him what they liked and didn't like. So, but that was important to him because he felt very strongly that this was their seat and it was their district, and he wanted to be the best representative of them that he could. And I shared that with him. You probably have heard this story 100 times. I met him at the Republican State Convention in 2000. We both had been very active in politics and in our communities before we ever knew each other. And so we had a lot of mutual friends, but when we met, we were like, wow, I really like your ideas. Wow, I like your ideas too. Wow, you're involved in that. Wow, I'm involved in this. So it was kind of funny that we had very, very similar lives, just we didn't know each other. Once we got married, that didn't change. It continued. We just did everything together in those circumstances. So for me, when I looked around, there was no other community-based, grassroots-based person ready to stand up and run a congressional campaign right now. And it was important to me to have somebody who was in the district, who knew the whole district, who knew the people, knew the issues, knew the ground game, knew all of those pieces. And so I said, yes, I will do this. And I'm excited about it. We've had a great response. I've really loved getting to see everybody. After the whole last year of COVID, we just didn't get to see as many people in person as we wanted. And so this has been nice to get out and about. And so here we are. We're back here now. Almost election time on Zoom. We're back at Zoom.
I think that's one of the leftovers that will continue because we've realized how efficient and productive it is to use it as a tool. So yeah, it's a good thing. So I want to ask you a couple questions. One being, what do you feel our biggest issues are today overall? I mean, I know that's a big question, but
so overall, we've talked to thousands of voters. Literally, we have knocked on thousands of doors. Mm-hmm. Without question, the number one issue is what's going on at the southern border. And it's for a variety of reasons, but people are concerned that the United States can't secure its own border. And the idea that people feel like they need to come here for asylum, that people really need to come here for whatever their reason, that is not the concern. The general concern is that there are literally people just barging in is the term I hear the most. And they're concerned that the United States can't control that. And so there's a little bit of unrest over that. The very next item that's concerning to them, and part of it is because of the pandemic, part of it is because of the border, I think. Part of it is just a general unrest or unsettling because the whole last year has just been so different, is the economy. People are concerned about the economy. They feel like we're getting back to whatever normal is, but we're not there yet. And they really want to get back. And so many, you know this, Lori, so many, the people in our district are small business owners or connected in some way with small business. And they really need, what is their main word? They really need to get back to regular order, get back to the way things used to be, where their employees can come in. There's a challenge getting employees back to work. There's a challenge, a big challenge with that. There's a big challenge with supply chain. Things that used to, you get them, you wouldn't have to warehouse things, particularly for small businesses. You know what a challenge that is. You don't have the space to do that. So you would order for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks at a time. Well, now it takes a lot longer to get things. So you begin to run out. Your clientele begins to not be, they can't depend on you to have your things as much. So it depends on the industry, of course, but there's a whole lot of challenges that restarting the economy has not addressed yet. It's coming back, it's slow, but there's concern over that. There's still some concern about schools. People have noticed that their kids are back in school for the most part, but they're not caught up yet. And so there's a challenge with how do we get the kids caught up. Some of the kids are having some other, what is the right word? Not necessarily behavioral, but they're having a lot of anxiety over a missed year, maybe is probably the best collective term for everything. So that's a challenge. Everything else is just a, sort of a mishmash of a whole bunch of things, but those are probably the 2, maybe 3 biggest things. I think people want some finality. I think we see light at the end of the tunnel. I think in general, people are pleased with the fact that we've got vaccines for people. We've got plans for people to come back. We're working on all of that. And I think they're happy with those steps forward. I think that they're anxious now. You're at the end of a road trip. You really want that last 25 miles to hurry up. You've been doing this a long time. And I feel like that's kind of where people seem like they are.
So with that said, how are you going to, what are your plans to address, or what are you going to be fighting for? What's your mission?
Well, my mission, I really do want to work with everybody in Congress that I can. I'm really concerned about the southern border. That seems to me to be a bit of an urgent matter. We don't really know who's coming in, and there's more and more reports of people we don't want in here that are coming in. I'm very concerned about the humanitarian crisis down there. That is becoming a humanitarian, well, it already is a pretty significant humanitarian crisis. It is becoming quickly an economic crisis, and it is a national defense crisis. So all of those things are fairly imminent to be dealt with. So to the extent I can sign on to anything, I can give a voice to something, I certainly want to vote for anything that's going to shore that up. We can't make decisions on what we have to do to address all of the situations. Every person who comes to the border to seek asylum has a story, and we need to adjudicate that. But we have to address it in an orderly fashion, and we can't do that piece until we can get the order. So that's my first priority. The second thing is to do what I can to help the economy, particularly in the 6th district. I want to make permanent the tax cuts that we had under the Trump administration. I really want to codify the regulatory reforms that we had done that really cut out a lot of red tape for our small businesses and our medium-sized businesses, and really level the playing field and free them up from a lot of paperwork and regulatory actions to let them grow their business and spend their time and their energy and money, frankly, on those things that help foster growth for their industry in their communities. So those are probably the 2 biggest things I'm going to work on. Long term, I really want to look at what we can do for healthcare. There's so many moving pieces to that, and everything under the Affordable Care Act that helped people in one area seems to be a detriment in other areas. So this X got fixed over here, but now Y is sort of a crunch issue. So our premiums are up overall, but we do have coverage of pre-existing conditions, which is phenomenal. We have to keep that. We have some degree of portability, but our out-of-pocket expenses are outrageous. We have more things covered, but on the other hand, the pre-authorizations for some of those coverages takes an incredible amount of time. And so the experience that Ron and I had going through his cancer treatments, and we did not have any bad experiences. We did have quite a significant out-of-pocket expense. We took from a retirement IRA that we've had for a long time. Not everybody has something like that they could take money from, but that was a pretty significant amount of money that we certainly weren't planning on spending, and we really thought our insurance covered more than it did. But a lot of people that we met on our journey did not have the same experience we did. Some of them would wait weeks and weeks into months to get their chemo, and in cancer, that's not the best alternative. Time is not your friend. And so they faced those challenges. This was all pre-COVID. COVID put a whole different wrinkle in it. But before that, those are issues that I think those are the longer conversations that I like to tell you that this requires a longer conversation. This is more of a put everybody at the table. And I think that the effort has been made. I would like to see less centralization and more individualized plans, so that smaller businesses get to pick plans that work for that business and their employees. I would like to see individuals have a little bit bigger choice at bigger companies, so that they can sort of pick and choose what works for them. Sometimes you need more prescription drug coverage and maybe a higher deductible for your major medical catastrophic care things. Maybe you need the reverse. But I think with a nationalized healthcare plan, like the Affordable Care Act, tried to address everything, but you just can't. There's just too many individual circumstances, and big companies and small companies get kind of glommed in together, and what works for one size company is virtually impossible for a smaller or mid-sized company to accommodate, and the cost variation is significant. Both the employer participation piece and the employee contribution, they vary so much that it becomes almost undoable in some circumstances. So I think that those are big chunks that need to be addressed over time. I don't have any answers, but I do have a willingness to sit down and do it, and I want to be able to speak from the perspective of patient and family of patient side, and that experience, and then bring in the healthcare industry, bring in the insurance industry, some of the regulatory pieces, and see where we can, and then of course the business representation to explain how all of these things impact all of us. And I know there's an answer, because like I said earlier, there's no problem that we can face as Americans, and Texans in particular, that we can't fix. But we need some patience and some understanding and some time to sit down and put everything out on the table, see what works, what doesn't work, fix it, and come away with something that works for everybody. And I know we can do that. I just want to be a part of that.
Well, and that brings me to a point. This will be our last topic here, but you need collaboration, amongst the groups that be, and we're in such a divisive time, not only nationally, but even at a local level. How do you bring people together to solve these problems when you've got, and you and I had talked about this a little bit earlier, that, you've got the far over here and the far over there, and then there's us in the middle, and we're just sick of it. So how do you engage, and how do you pull that together? Because and you're absolutely right. There are solutions to everything. It's not that difficult. But in order to make it happen, there has to be that cooperation. So how does that happen?
Well, I don't know how it happens, but I'm committed to doing it. And the first thing, I'm going to do it.
Well, that's step one.
But I really think a lot of it has to do with people have to be willing to do it. I don't have to agree with you on anything to have a conversation. And I think that we've I think there's a very high level of frustration in our country.
Mhm.
I think it stems from a whole lot of sources. And I think different people will tell you different things. I think there's an uneasiness. I think there's a lack of control. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but there seems like there's a crisis or catastrophic thing happening constantly, and you begin to feel a little bit uneasy in general.
Mm.
I think that offenses are given on a regular basis. I think social media has a lot to play with this. I think offenses are given without intention, but the weight of the words hits with the same force despite the intention.
Right.
And I think that our media has a little bit of a role to play in the sense that it's not fun to report all the good news that happens. People seem to see good news and they're happy to hear it, but in general, the shocking things are what people watch, right? And
Yeah.
that's just kind of the market. That's just sort of the way it happens. I don't think any of these things are intentional, but the collective result is an uneasiness, an edginess, a very reflexiveness. And I certainly don't have a magic answer to it, but I work across the spectrum with people. You know this, I was district director for State Representative Zedler. I'm district director for State Representative Cook now. And my job is constituent services and community outreach. And so my job is not to only talk to my friends. My job is to talk to whoever comes to our office, whoever calls, whatever organization has a resource or a responsibility within the community, the district, or anything that surrounds our district. And amazingly, people are perfectly willing to sit down and talk to you about whatever their issue is. And most people's issues are not right or left, Republican or Democrat, conservative or liberal. They're more people issues. And when I think if we would let go of some of the labels, I think they're useful in terms of giving you a general idea of someone. Like, I consider myself a conservative Republican, but what does that mean? It means something different to a lot of different people, maybe. But that is not necessarily me as the person, although that is me politically. You can usually tell a lot about a person that way. But I think if we sit down and talk to each other one-on-one, if we look at each other's problems in terms of how can we resolve this, and maybe not through the lens of the nightly news, I think that maybe we could see some headway. Right now in Washington, that's not the mood. That is not the mood. So I don't have any idea how to work through that. I am committed to working with any member of Congress that wants to sit down and talk about the problems that we face and a way to solve them. I'm 100% committed to doing that. And I still believe that the answer is right there. I don't know what that is yet, but we can't find it if we can't talk about it. So I know we'll get there. I don't know the time we'll get there. That's my commitment. I know we'll get there.
That's step one.
That's step one.
Yeah. Well, I need to wrap this up. Is there any last word that you want to say, or any last statement that you want to make before we sign off?
Well, first I want to thank you for this. This is I know you've got 1,000 things going on, but taking a minute to let me chat with you and your viewers is very, very much appreciated by me. And I always like visiting with you in the Mansfield Chamber. Secondly, I want to remind everybody the election's May the 1st. Early voting starts next Monday, April the 19th. It's important for people to go and vote. This is not a traditional time to go out and vote for Congress, but it is a traditional time to go out and vote for our local elections. And the best way to start these conversations that you and I talk about all the time, that I've talked about some here, is to go and vote. That is the first step of this bigger conversation, is look into the candidates and see who can do what you think as the voter should be done. Of course, I want people's votes. I've been doing community work and civic work and professional work here for 30 years. So I'd love the opportunity to go to Washington and continue that with for my friends, with someone from their neighborhood, from their community, to go to Washington and work with them to address their national issues. But that's probably the last thing that I have. I'm proud of the endorsements I have. I've got a website with everything on there, and proud of the work that I've done with the chamber, with several of the local chambers actually, and look forward to doing more of that work with you guys.
Okay. Well, I thank you very much. And just FYI for everyone to know, Susan is going to come to our chamber luncheon, which is on the 22nd. So you can come and visit with her in person. We're going to be in an in-person event.
Yay.
So anyway, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Lori. You too.
Okay.
I appreciate you.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.